I think is really, really important. I think going back as well to culture, and I know we always use the C word, and it's just such a huge word and it's such a big topic for us to try and tackle. But I really, really do believe that if we put our money where our mouths were and stopped bloody talking about the issues and started doing stuff around, actually seeing change, we'll keep more people in our sector. We lose 25%. 25% of women who work in the sector, we lose them every year. So if we just kept them, we wouldn't have a skills shortage. We wouldn't have a skills issue. So for me, it's less about attraction, because I think the attraction is there. It's more about how do we keep people with us.
But what is it that's meaning? Is there anything that we can actually change to keep women in construction more? Or is it a more systemic long-term issue?
I think it goes back to what I was saying before. So it's about that cultural piece. It's about work-life balance. Yep. I don't think we've cracked the nut of flexibility in our sector. Yep. I think if you're out on site, there's very little flexibility. And this isn't just a women in construction issue. This is a construction issue. Yeah. This is a retention issue. It's irrelevant what gender or what background you have. I think as well, it's a really tough sector. It's a really tough industry. I just listened to your panel beforehand around mental health. And I think we just need to be looking at better solutions in terms of really shifting the culture in the sector.
Do you want to add something, Emma?
Yeah, I mean, Octopus is a data company that's disrupted the energy market in 9 years, right? So we do things differently. And the thing about people in construction is they have skills, they have ability, and they can get over problems. In the world that I work in, the future is not curated. It's all new stuff. Everything we do every day is new. We need people with skills to learn with us. You can't train for it. And therefore, it's an amazing opportunity to take people from construction into energy sectors, AI, all of those new things that there's roles we don't even know what they are. And that's the real difficulty. We had 2,000 jobs last year. We had 253,000 people apply for those 2,000 jobs. And that's what's happening, is that all these new sectors, all these more exciting sectors with better, interesting offers, balances, cultures, all those other things are coming forward, and they're nicking our good people.
Yeah. I would say that it's great that you don't have an attraction issue. I think the industry as a whole, though, has an attraction and retention issue. And it's interesting because I think going back to what you were both saying about starting early, I think what happens is if a child is very numerate or is very good at maybe calculations, very quickly tech becomes something, or pharmaceuticals become something that they are told of at school. And perhaps it's not something early enough that we talk about, that we introduce as a topic that actually this is something you could do.
I would tell parents at year 9 parents' evening when they're choosing their GCSEs, you could only 120 grand a year in Cambridge as a bricklayer working 4 days a week. If you tell the parents, they'll be like, go be a bricklayer.
It's I was thinking on Friday, for those of you who haven't, I've been plugging it all day, Women in Construction Awards, please go, Design and Build, who have curated this all today. They run an awards every year, Women in Construction. It was Friday night, it was amazing. Zoe brought her daughter. I have said next year I'm bringing one of my 3 sons, because I do believe that getting them early and talking to them about it, and everything you were saying about purpose is the thing that I've been talking to my middle son about. Because actually I keep saying to him, you're numerate, but how's about making a difference in people's lives rather than just sitting there in a corner doing maths? Were you going to say something, Sophie? Do you want to add something? All right, let's go on to the next one then. The role of pay versus purpose. I actually didn't know that was the next question. We talked about purpose. Recruitment campaigns often highlight competitive pay, be a bricklayer in Cambridge. Yet surveys show that younger generations place greater value on purpose and culture. I believe that, actually, the culture word. Do we overestimate pay as a motivator and sometimes underestimate meaning and impact? Zoe?
We've had a session this morning based on EDI, and I think the focus on EDI now is making young people or people entering our sector more inclined. They want to feel valued and appreciated and be given a voice and an opinion. And I think that with the mentorship and the allyship and everything else that we're doing with role models is really giving people more of a greater focus on actually enjoying what they're doing without that financial remuneration. They've got more opportunity of career progression by doing something for the greater good and not necessarily for the finance immediately, more so in the longer term.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the attraction versus retention piece again. I think to bring them in, yes, you need great pay, and we're not always the most competitive sectors out there. I know when you talk to some of the younger lot, all they want to know is, you know, can they get the next pair of Nikes and can they buy a car? Well, yeah, come into our sector and you can get all of those things, and the opportunity for you can earn a lot of money in this sector. But to keep them here, you need more than pay.
Oh,
you absolutely do. You need purpose and values and a fantastic culture. You need brilliant mentorship, and you need really clear career pathways. So I think, yes, to get them in, but to keep them, you need something more.
Something you wanted to add to Emma, and then we'll come to Renee. Is that all right, Emma?
So we think we're pretty forward-thinking, but actually the tech companies are really forward-thinking.
Oh, yeah.
The perks they're offering now include rounds of IVF. You're going to stay if that's on offer, right? So, like, we think just offering a few bits here and there and a bit of healthcare is all good.
Yeah.
We are so off the pace in construction. The tech companies really know how to look after their staff.
Yeah. Renee?
I think what you really have to consider is SMEs. So we are an SME, and we have a huge graduate program where we nurture our graduates, give them a heck of a lot of training, and very often I will lose them to a tier 1 contractor. And that's quite frustrating because we're obviously trying to upskill the industry. However, I have an awful lot of phone calls of can we come back, because our culture is fantastic and they love the culture. They love that they're part of a company that gives back, that has strong social value, and they love being a part of that. And we always say we're growing the community. We're building a community. We're not just building. And it shows, it really does. And so I think sometimes you have to kind of look at what SMEs are doing, instead of just sort of like, if you look at ISG collapse last year, they were paying extortionate prices and for extortionate salaries.
Wages,
And when I interviewed some of the staff, I was brutally honest. You know, you're 25% inflated. I just cannot pay you that kind of salary. And so there is that balance, isn't there?
Yeah.
ISG actually went bump. Did they go bump because they were paying too many inflated salaries and not actually focusing on their culture? That's the question, isn't it?
I think feeling happy and feeling valued is so important. And actually, does a paycheck, you've got to earn a certain amount of money, but at the same time, it's feeling good about yourself.
There's some statistics out there at the moment that say 81% of individuals will achieve the goals greater and quicker with a mentor.
Yeah.
And they also say the same, that 20% of organisations that have mentorship programs actually retain 20% more staff. They have less turnover.
I completely understand that, because it's also just someone that you can talk to, isn't it, on those moments where it's really, really challenging. Okay, so recruitment beyond CVs. Some firms are experimenting with skills-based hiring rather than traditional CVs. Could this approach widen the talent pool and help address shortages? What risks does it bring? I'm finding this fascinating because this is a true story. On Monday night, I was in Nice in France speaking at a business school about the impact of AI in recruitment. So actually, I'm quite on this at the moment. Does anyone want to try and answer that question?
Well, one of my concerns with AI and recruitment at the moment is that it has an unconscious bias against women. And so we've seen reports of, you know, if you're putting, you know, what your hobbies are, and it'll filter out hobbies like netball and you know, anything that's pertaining to females. And that is my concern, that the human side is being eliminated from the process of actually taking on new members of staff. So I think we need to be very mindful of that.
Well, interestingly enough, back in 2018, I was working on a project with a very big software provider who decided not to do AI in recruitment because they thought that it would have too much unconscious bias. And yet here we are, and it's being used. Anyone else got any thoughts on it?
I mean, we're basically an AI company. We don't even have HR. We have 10,000 employees and we work in 32 countries around the world. So we live and breathe by AI, but yet I've never worked in a more diverse, driven, ESG-focused companies. But we don't have a diversity policy. We don't have an ESG policy. We have none of that. We just live by our core values, and that attracts the right people in.
So do you use CVs or do you use skills-based?
We do a lot of actual applications through LinkedIn.
Right.
So it's actually assessing the person on what they've done and what they've achieved and what they've posted, as opposed to just what they've put in a CV. It's really effective. The people we have are really motivated.
So you just simply look at their LinkedIn profile as opposed to...
One of the routes is a LinkedIn profile. There's many, but AI is definitely used in the filtration and it hasn't impacted at all. If anything, I'd say we have more women, weirdly.
So in terms of keywords, it looks for certain keywords in their profiles.
And what they've achieved, what they've posted, how they talk, are they passionate, have they got the right sort of personality fit with us?
That's interesting that you're talking about posting, because when I was at this business school on Monday, what I was saying to some of these, management students is be very, very careful about what you post. But then it can work for you. Clearly, if you post with enthusiasm, which is why I've personally never allowed anyone else to run my LinkedIn profile other than me, because I want it to sound like me. I don't want it to sound like AI has written it for me. I want it because people know what I sound like, so they know the vocabulary I use, they know the tone of my voice. You want to say something, Sophie, or not? Add into it.
I think my opinion on this is I love a skill-based assessment rather than just scouring through endless CVs. I mean, it's just a hideous task.
If you come to people like us, we'll do it for you, but carry on.
Well, we do have a wonderful team that will do it. I don't have to do most of that stuff. But the thing that I always actually prefer is the cultural and the behavioural fit rather than even skills, because I just believe that you can teach anyone a skill, but it's so much more challenging to teach someone a certain type of behaviour or that cultural fit. My most high performing teams are where we have fantastic cultural fit. They work really well together. They're passionate. Their aim is to get things right first time. That doesn't always come across in a CV, and it doesn't always come across in a skills-based assessment either. But actually having really interesting interview sort of parts in our process where we bring people together, we put them through challenges, we watch and just observe how they work with one another. So
it's not a panel-based, a traditional panel-based selection.
More observation.
The assessment's done through team building.
Exactly, yeah. And we also, as part of our apprentice recruitment, we'll actually get them to do a social value project as well, because social value is so important to us that we need people who are willing to do things outside of their normal job role. And it tells you, honestly, it will tell you a hell of a lot if some of these people are very funny about working in certain different types of environments, or you're asking them to do certain different types of jobs. So you might have a painter, but actually you're asking them to go and clean up a garden. They don't want to do that. You're not right for my business.
I'm going to add something, Zoe.
Yeah, we've actually seen a change. I mean, construction, again, we're a people industry, aren't we? People deal with people. And when they do come for an interview, a lot of the assessment is made on that. Can they gel with our individuals and our teams? But under Ezrah, we've been seeing a huge influx with the HR teams with DISC assessments. Again, doing the behavioural profiling, seeing how we communicate. Are they going to fit with the other team leaders and the other staff, which I think is a really good belt and braces.
Do you want to say anything, Emma? You good?
I mean, in terms of our field staff, we also put on a thing called an octopalosa, a very octopus thing. We take over a football ground and we actually ask engineers to come in and do things like radiator installs and stuff, but we analyse them from the beginning. We ask them to bring their families if they want and their kids, because we want to see what they're like with them. And we analyse them from the second they walk in the door. And we also want them to be polite and talk to people.
Yes.
And that's really important for us because customers is our core thing. So, yeah, we do analyse them all the way along. And if we like them, we'll offer them a job there and then. That's the sort of the deal. But we are literally watching them from the second they park in the car park.
It's really helpful that you're saying that, because this is the stuff I say to people all the time, is don't just turn it on when you are actually sitting down in an interview. Believe you me, the feedback that receptionist is going to give on how you arrived Do not mess with the receptionist. That's my biggest, it's true though, the power, and it's also to the moment you leave. And also the other thing is people think once they leave the room, the interview's over. But actually, as you're walking back to the lifts or to reception, you're still being assessed. So don't switch off. Keep going. It's really important.
Just really quickly, I think that's also really important for the employer
Yes.
to not forget that, because a little trick that I always do is I will go and meet them in the car park and have a conversation with them that's completely off topic about anything we're doing. I'll walk them back to the car, have conversations about what they're up to this weekend, and just try to get to know them a little bit better that way as well, because they're assessing us too.
Of course.
And I want them to know me as a human being, not just someone that's sat behind a table who's asked them really difficult questions for an hour. It's not a very nice situation. So that, I think it goes both ways.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We've got to make sure we're still selling all the way through, and we're consistent in that, consistent in the way that we approach it. So, talking about retention and exit interviews, the industry spends millions on recruitment, but few companies systematically analyse why people leave. You were talking about why we lose people. What could we learn from exit interviews, and should this data be shared? Ooh, that's a good question. More openly across the sector. Do you do exit interviews for a start, and do you share?
We've actually worked with a couple of architects' practices on their exit interviews with our leadership coaches.
Right.
So they've been brought in to come and talk to that individual, capture feedback, and that gets threaded back into the leadership team, the SLT, about performance. They might say why they've left, but when you have an independent appraisal at the end,
that's
a
so
lot
important.
more. Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. Do you have exit interviews, Renee?
Yeah, we most... On.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we most definitely do. Obviously, that's why very often, obviously, I was saying with the graduates that we're seeing why they want to leave and where they're going. But it is important, because I think sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't want to throw somebody under the bus. But it's quite telling in an exit interview how honest someone's going to be about maybe a problem in your company that you didn't know about, and it might be systemic. And so that's really key for us to get to the roots of why is this person leaving? Is it financial? Or is there something that's actually not working, and that and we need to pull together as a team? So they're imperative for the success of any company.
I remember calling up a client of mine in the construction sector and actually saying to them, look, we're actually receiving too many candidates from you. In the nicest possible way. People keep coming to us from you. There seems to be an issue here that needs to be solved. And, it's kind of, because you don't want to see a company losing so many staff, but when we see them approaching us to get a job, you can tell because it's the same name that comes up. So there's a problem there. So, Sophie, you can add something.
I'm, without trying to be controversial, I believe that exit interviews are too late.
But are you not interested in knowing, or do you already get that before?
We do have exit interviews.
Yeah.
I don't always trust the information that's given to me, because I think that once someone is at the point of exit interview, they've checked out, they're not, they've moved on to the next. I don't think you really get to the root cause. I'm more interested in stay interviews. So why are people staying with me?
Ooh, okay.
I'm also interested in employee focus groups and really getting to it's a bit more of a positive spin on sort of what we're talking about here, but I'm interested in why people want to stay. Yes, match that with data of why people are leaving us.
Yeah.
I think the two are important, but let's not focus too much on why people are leaving.
I think, could you have both? Are they mutually?
And that's what I'm saying. I think having both sets of data is really important. But I do think you need to just sprinkle a little bit of a pinch of salt on some of the information that is given back to us in an exit interview.
Do you know what though? I also wonder if an exit interview should actually happen about 3 months after they've left. Because I do think there's a point around psychological safety. And I think people don't tell the truth while they're still employed sometimes. Even if they've got one day to go, they won't say it. I think exit interviews, if you really want to use it in a non-emotional, we just want to hear the stuff we can change, really practical tips, I would suggest to any organisation do an exit interview 3 months after.
I saw something recently that was alumni interviews, which I just
I
thought was
totally
such a great idea.
Totally, that's
is go find people that have
100%.
left you ages ago and just
Yeah.
see how they're getting on, and
Yeah.
you know, it might even spark a conversation for them to come
It does,
back.
but it means that then you're getting to, because as we know, the way the brain works is we go to the animal brain first, which is the emotion, and then we go to the computer, as Professor Steve Peters would say, or our logical brain. After 3 months of them leaving, the emotion's gone, and then you're getting the practical, actual, tangible stuff that you can change. So I think I'd never heard it called that way. I love that. Going to use that, steal that. Emma, did you want to add anything?
It's very hard because we don't even do appraisals, and so we don't have HR.
You are like disruptive.
So
I love this.
I don't think we do exit interviews because your boss is meant to actually know all about you. It's the Timpsons model, you know. And actually, most people in our world are moving on because they've learned a lot, or there's new technology, or there's different companies. And on the whole, from what I've seen of the few people that have gone, they've gone with blessing because they've reached the point with us that they can get to. And then there's a new technology come up, or that's their interest, or...
But what happens if the boss is the problem? Do you see what I mean? Because they say the major reason that most people leave organisations is because of the boss. So I'm just, anyway.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I've been there for 2.5 years, so that might not be long enough, but we're only a 9-year-old company. So it's a fair chunk
sounds amazing.
of time. It's just very, very different.
Yeah.
It's very different. Coming from a housing association into this world, very different. You know, we had a policy for everything. Getting a pen out of a cupboard, everything. Whereas we have nothing. Yeah. And then the weird thing is, and it is a weird thing, we all use our own mobile phones. I've always worked in construction where they're giving you a second phone. You use your own phone. It's a very, there's little nuances that are really different because everybody's young. They're all aged about 28, right? I'm grandma, really. You know what I mean? But they all have their own phones. So you've got all this stuff. You're not asking them, do you need training in Excel? They can all rewrite Excel.
I'll just,
you know what I mean?
Like, write my own coding.
It's just very different.
I love it. So here we go. Intergenerational workforce challenges. We now have 4 generations working side by side in sites and offices. What tensions or opportunities does this create for retention? And how should managers adapt their styles? This is such a good question.
Can I
please
kick
do.
off with this one because
I love it.
I'm really passionate about this.
Love it.
Because so my business, Novus Property Solutions, was founded by my great-great-grandfather 130 years ago. So it's been in our family for such a long period of time. In our boardroom today, we have 4 generations. So we have my grandfather, my father, me, and my daughter. I say boardroom, it's our family council, essentially, which sits above the boardroom. For us to be able to have really open, honest conversations where everybody is heard, we have to have a really safe environment. And that is not easy when you've got your dad and your granddad in the room and your daughter. It's really difficult because I'm still a child in their eyes. My daughter is a baby. But what we've really worked on is establishing clear ground rules, a common set of values, and we challenge and really support each other in that environment. We know exactly why we're going in the room together. We know exactly what we're going to be discussing, what we're talking about, what the challenges are. We come up with really fantastic solutions, and the key is curiosity. So it's all about how our older generations are curious enough with our younger generations, and our younger generations are really curious with our older generations too, so that it creates this space of creativity and just openness. Don't get me wrong, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's really, we have some very difficult conversations, but as long as we have curiosity in the room, and trust, then it works so beautifully. And I really, truly believe, I can actually feel myself getting quite passionate about it, because I really, truly believe the answer is there. It's amongst those different opinions, experiences,
open-mindedness,
exactly. And that's the solution is in there.
Somewhere.
You just have to like crack it open.
Totally agree.
So Renee,
I'm going to work my way down.
So I have this at Gallaway. I mean, we've got site managers that worked with us for 18 years, and then I've obviously got a big graduate program. So lots of different generations all working together. And I did have a bit of a disconnect a couple of years ago with our older generation not liking change because they don't like change. And all of Gallaway sites are now considered a training site. We're upskilling with T-level students. We have students on site visits. We've got students on work experience, both from colleges and from unis. And what we have seen is my younger team have supported the older site managers in getting on board by the reverse mentorship. So we're having...
I find reverse mentorship for me really useful. Personally, I find it really helpful.
It's been a game changer because I was so focused for such a long time on making sure that we're mentoring the new generation coming through. But when I flipped it on its head, we just had fantastic results, and we have a much more cohesive team now, I would say.
Yeah, I do think that. I do think that's how it challenges you in the way that you should evolve, because you don't know unless you're open to actually where you could get better, but it's about you signaling that you're humble enough to know you're not perfect. I think often, not necessarily all the time, but sometimes some of the older people are the more senior people. And so people don't want to tell you how you can improve because they're scared of telling you that because you're the more senior person. But actually it's being open and going, oh no, I don't think that I know everything, help me. Anything else you wanted to add?
I love it, me. I think that multifaceted education from all the different ages and experiences is just magnificent. What I've done in the past is I've put staff in schools to go do mentorship and volunteering and work experience. I've never seen fear on an employee's face as much as when you put them in front of an 11-year-old, 12-year-old who don't speak, you know, so it kind of forces you to learn. You learn a lot from their silence, as well as also obviously taking the lead. And I've seen careers grow, and I've actually included that on training matrices in the past.
Yeah, I can imagine also how motivating it is when they complete the week and are really motivated at the end of it.
Oh, I've seen them be silent themselves as a grown adult. And then the thing is, you're putting these in positions with other clients who are of different age groups and experiences. So
fab. Emma?
We don't have a huge
Okay, shall I skip?
But the one thing I would say is that
you're going to be good at the next one. This is all about tech and AI. Should we skip to that one? Great. Technology and automation. AI and automation are changing the nature of work. Could technology help reduce the skills gap and improve retention, or would it actually push people out of the industry if they feel that roles are being dehumanized?
AI's here, it's come fast, and if we don't move on, we're going to have our Kodak moment. Quite simple. Banks want automation, the money markets want automation, it's coming. So the biggest thing we've got to do is get our people ahead of the machines. Literally, they're eating our breakfast. So we've got to upskill people and give them jobs. And it's experience, it's people-to-people experiences, and actually that's what we've got to focus on. My husband's a lawyer. Happening in law is happening across every industry. Yeah. And to be honest, to be behind the curve is foolhardy because it is just chomping behind very quickly like Pac-Man.
Do you want to...
That's our responsibility as well, that to bring our people with us. If there is change, then we have to make sure that they have the tools and the skills to work and facilitate their own role. I think to do that would be, I mean, there's people who are static who don't want to learn, but you know, if they want to come with the business, then we all have to move with it.
It's quite interesting. I was at, like I said, an AI event in Nice last 2 days, and it was saying that there was a corporate psychologist who does assessments, so psychometric assessments, skills assessments on people, and he was saying that 20 years ago, when you were trained, those skills 20 years ago would last 30 years. They're saying now, the skills we are learning now will only be relevant for the next 3 years. So actually, what we all need to be good at is ability to learn new things, because what we know now won't be useful to us in 3 years. So if your ability, one of the most important ones is, can you let go of what's not useful to you anymore and accept that your ability to then learn the next new thing and move on and accept it is actually the most important skill you're going to have?
as an employer, we'd be negligent if we did not train and
Yes.
help our people. And also, we have to be advocates for ourselves as well, and maybe look at how we can adapt our own skill base.
One of the, do you want,
Yeah, we've introduced. We're working with a tech company at the moment to develop a digital twin, which helps the QSs and our QSs look at it, and we're trying to develop it with the software company, and they're like, is it going to do away with our job? And it's not, but it's making that job an awful lot quicker.
that's what they talk about. It's productivity. It's not replacing. It's actually augmenting and allowing. That's the argument, isn't it? That allows people to progress onto other tasks or do the things that are more human focused, like you were saying, and therefore people's ability to be able to communicate. People with high emotional intelligence will be very much needed. Apparently, this is what I've been told.
Well,
for
I mean,
the last 2
we're
days.
seeing how quickly we would be able to estimate a job, how quickly we can value that job. We're using that software with our taster days.
Yeah.
We've rolled it out to colleges. We're making sure that, if you working in construction, we're making the software available so that they're not left behind.
Do you know that also another gender point on this is that apparently about 65% of men will use AI, various types of it. Actually, the statistic for women is about 35%. And when I heard that, I made myself start using it so that I was at least understanding it. So I personally use Gemini now, but other people use whatever ones they want to use, ChatGPT, whatever.
Brilliant for image generation. I love it. Makes a PowerPoint amazing.
Yes.
You just type in a description, it comes up with all sorts of random pictures. You can play around with it. Suddenly I'm an artist. Who knew?
It designed my husband's 50th birthday flag for Glastonbury via our marketing person, so that happened. Okay, awesome. Next one. The economics of retention. Replacing an employee, this is why what you're saying, Sophie, is so important. The replacing an employee can cost up to 150% of their salary. Well, I work in recruitment. I'm not sure that's right, actually, but I think it's not just the fee of the recruiter. I think it's then the training of them, getting them used to your rules, as it were. Yet retention rarely gets the same investment as recruitment campaigns. Should companies rethink how they budget for retention strategies? Do you want to start us off on that, Sophie? Because you're quite articulate about retention.
Retention
Campaigns.
I think
Budgets.
I don't like calling it that because this is just investing in your people.
Yep.
Don't call it investment for
Retention
like
campaign.
retention investor.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I don't like that at all. I just think look after your people. Have a fantastic place of work where you're attracting the best and you're keeping the best with you, and that's it. We don't need to overcomplicate it, but just really driving a fantastic culture, and it deserves investment in that. Just don't call it a retention investment.
Anyone else want to add to that, or are we saying actually just treat people well?
We tried something last year that we've not done before. It was pretty exhausting, I've got to say, because we decided to sit down with every single member of staff individually, and it wasn't for the sake of. We wanted their feedback on how we were performing, so we wanted it again. It was that reverse kind of, tell us how we're performing, tell us how we can perform better, tell us how the culture can improve. And it was, it was exhausting because it was a lot of time out of our over a 4-week period. We interviewed everybody, but I think that cost that saved us a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just actually ironing out things that might have, if we'd been left a year or two down the line, there would have been a costly problem. Whereas actually getting at the forefront straight away, and also allowing your team to be heard as well, it made a big difference. So I would definitely say to anyone that's looking at retaining their staff and looking at how they can do that, listen to what they have to say and allow them to be heard. And it's like I think you said before, like there was one member of a team that you could tell was causing problems or causing risks.
We know the teams at certain organisations that are causing the issue, because what we can see is how many of their staff are contacting us. So we can see it quite clearly, and they all seem to come from the same team at the same organisation. So we know that boss is the problem. but it's obviously...
Yeah, but
You
sometimes
need to
when
tell
you...
me who that is.
Yeah. We're like, we know they've got a problem, but, you know.
But sometimes when you're off doing my job, when I'm off doing my job and I'm not on site every day,
Yeah.
I might not see it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to sit down with your team
Yeah.
individually and let them be heard.
But I think the alumni questions might add to that. Anything more you wanted to add? I feel like we've been doing an awful lot of the talking now. Sadly, because the internet is down, believe it or not, UK Construction Week, no internet. We can't do this very, very fancy kind of interactive. So we have to go to the old way of doing it, which is asking any of you. Now, we have the lovely Emma, who has worn the brand here. She's got the pink. She has the pink trainers. She now has the pink octopuses. So for the next, we've got about 8 minutes. Any observations, comments, feedback you want to give, questions you want to ask to the panel, and one of them will try and throw you an octopus if you put your hand up. So you get an octopus. Oh my God, no, she's going to throw the octopus at you. You have to answer the blooming question. Is that how we're going to do it? Does anyone have any questions first? Anyone have your observations, questions? We have microphones that we can give. Can I? Thanks, sweetie. Do you ask a question?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi. My name's Laura Giddings. I'm from the STEM project, so I do a lot of work around education and business, and it's that wraparound about social value. So yeah, obviously it's quite a good place to be at the moment. Just a couple of observations. I do work across various sectors, and you've kind of highlighted something that is seen everywhere, especially in automation, in metallurgy, in materials, that there's a huge retention issue. Something which is worth noting, and it's not called a retention campaign, something which is happening a lot in the automation sector is an organisation called Gambika, and they're actually investing in like a 10-year kind of strategy design to help early career entries, but also those who are career changers, stay in their role in the first 10 years. So it's actually doing a huge amount of groundwork, connecting from businesses back in, but also having that younger voice to feed back in. So just something there if you're thinking of connecting that part together. I've been asking this question a lot to people because I find it very interesting. People give very different kind of responses. But obviously everyone keeps talking about the skills gap. Weirdly, there's 2 or 3 people, I think you've mentioned, Sophie, you don't think there's a massive skills gap. And I heard it being mentioned yesterday twice by some senior leaders in housing and from like CITB. But everyone else is saying there is. So have we got a skills gap? And if we have, what is being done to overcome that, especially in this sector, which should have £39 billion apparently being injected into it in the next 10 years?
I'll go. We've got several issues affecting our skills right now. One is an ageist. We've got an ageist problem. We've got a lot of people coming to retirement right now. And then also the young people coming in, attracting them again. I think we mentioned earlier, you didn't have a difficulty. We've been channeling through social value so much, addressing like the underrepresented groups, the NEETs, long-term unemployed. We have a funnel neck in some of the colleges now where we've got oversubscription on the trades. I sat in a college and watched these young children who'd been coerced into going into our industry to then be told the courses is full and there's nowhere for them to go. I mean, those places were like gold dust. I never thought I'd ever hear that. But now we have a situation where getting those young people into an employment situation, national insurance has just come forward now, so the people are struggling with that. You try and get them to commit when margins are low, you know, they're not making the money. Who's going to supervise that young person on site? It is an absolute travesty that is actually occurring, especially when we've done so much and invested so much time and energy. I can see volunteer it yourself. I know you do a lot with the young people as well, don't you? So, but that's where it is. But then again, the professional trades, how do we attract and get people to know that it's not just, if I'm going to plug now, sorry, not just Men and Muddy Boots. If you go on to Save Construction page, you'll see the video where we've been trying to use that to campaign to industry, schools, anybody, just to change the perception. So it is free, so you can all download it if you want to use it, but it isn't just it's not just Men in Muddy Boots. There is marketing, there's every other role, accountancy. People overlook it because we're pushing trades, and then there's no jobs for them.
Go for it, Sophie.
I'm still going to go with my thing that I don't think we have an attraction issue. I think we have an issue with retention, like I've said, but I also think we have a real issue of employers employing young people and providing apprenticeship programs, because there is a demand there. The sector's just not meeting the demand, and that for me is more of an issue than there being an attraction problem. I think there are mission boards, there are campaigns, there's an awful lot of work that is being done in the sector to try and address the skills issue. But until employers employ more young people, I don't think we'll tackle the issue. It's not being made easy for us, though, because there are so many elements that are against us. I'm not going to go into it politically, but you know where I'm coming from with this. It's really, really frustrating, and something that I'm really trying to sort of champion at the moment is, we had 2,000 people, young people want to be an apprentice. We could only take 28. What are we doing with the remaining individuals that we couldn't provide an opportunity for? There needs to be more collaboration in the sector where we can share, where we can issue out others. But unless there is the opportunity for employability from employers, we're just not going to solve the issue.
Any other comments?
Just to add to that, technologies have the same issue, especially Tech Week in university. Birmingham's done a lot. For the last 5-10 years, they keep saying their talent is there, they just can't hire them. So again, that number is getting higher and higher across all the sectors.
I speak to colleges every day who have this issue. They have students who are coming up to qualification who don't then have an opportunity to be employed. It's just infuriating, it really is.
I think with the destinations being around, obviously they've now removed the 50% destinations push for further and higher education. You've now got young people who've been told, go to academia, learn, but you can't now get a job. And now industry is now saying, have these skills, but they're not taught that in further and higher education. Sorry.
Again, I just think we keep them in academia, in school, for far too long. If we can start introducing some of these job roles in schools, so they're learning, so that when they leave school, they get a paid job immediately. Some of them are getting to 18, 19 before they can actually earn a real living wage,
Which for some people, especially with the cost of living at the moment, the family sometimes needs them to be earning
But they
money
become disillusioned as well.
Yeah.
This is what I watch. I'd see them all leaving
before
they've even got a real meaningful job.
Yeah. One last question, and then that's it, because if not, I feel like someone's going to rugby tackle us out of the way for the next panel to come on. Last question.
So I'm a progressions coach with Volunteer It Yourself. Can you hear me all right? Yeah?
I feel like,
And that was interesting what you said. I can get young people on courses, but I can't get them into work because they haven't got the work experience. Insurance seems to be a difficulty getting my young people on site, especially if they're under 18.
Yeah.
So what's your idea about how I can get my young people work experience that could lead to interviews that are successful?
It's funny you should say that. I've literally just written a white paper on this exact subject because there is a big disconnect in the construction industry. Tier 1 contractors will only use 18-year-olds on site for their health and safety reasons and their assurance. As a main contractor, I have 16-year-olds on my sites. We changed our RAMs to suit having 16-year-olds. Obviously, they work less hours. We safeguard. We've changed. We've looked at our best practice to safeguard our 16-year-olds. And the thing is, many years ago, we had YTS schemes where you could work in construction from age 16. You didn't need maths. You didn't need English. You earned a wage. We do have a niche problem in this country. It's almost 1 million 16 to 25-year-olds are not in employment. And the thing with construction is, or the disconnect that I see is, if you wait for 18, we're going to lose them to tech. We're going to lose them to different industries. I go into schools, I see the students, I see how excited they are about a career in construction. There is no reason why we can't take them at 16 and at grassroots level start to bring them through. They will learn their skills. But also, it's a very middle class thought process that someone is ready to work at 18. There are some 16-year-olds that have to go out to work,
Yes,
that
they do,
have
especially
to
at the
earn a
moment.
living. And we're not providing that. We're not providing that in our industry. So we have to go back and start putting pressure on the tier ones to change the process and get 16-year-olds on site. Because if I'm a SME and I'm doing it, why aren't they?
So I've got to stop because the lovely Kerry Evans is about to come on and do her keynote. If you don't know who she is, believe me, you need to stick around to hear this. Her compassionate leadership story is something we all need to hear. So please stick around to hear Kerry's keynote speech. She's about to come on. Thank you so much to Sophie, to Renee, to Zoe for helping us out. Emma, thank you so much. Thank you all for listening, asking questions, participating. I hope it was useful.